All right, welcome in. This morning, I update you on Brock Purdy, his status coming up for the next couple of weeks, and we talk about the value of both 49ers quarterbacks combined because the league has told us that you need two. Brock Purdy and Mac Jones, including a look at 49ers efficiency on the team tier chart in the NFL. You want to be more toward the blue here. As you can see, San Francisco, and I'm going to delve into this in just a little bit, has found itself in the second tier after 2 games. There's still going to be a lot of movement with the currently small sample size, but look who's up in tier 1. Jim Harbaugh's Chargers. We saw them last night against the Raiders and the Rams. 49ers and Rams. Before week 5 happens, I do wonder if San Francisco and LA will be in similar spots on this graph. I'm going to discuss that in a little bit. That's an overarching look at team strength, but let's go to the Purdy update. 49ers outside optimism, so it probably isn't likely, but there is some hope that he might be able to go this week against the Arizona Cardinals. But again, I will emphasize that it is less likely than it is likely that he does play week 3 against Arizona. I think that the most likely scenario is Mac Jones again for the 49ers against the Cardinals, followed by a Brock Purdy return in week 3 against Jacksonville. So this is a 2-game homestand, and the 49ers essentially earned the right to split the homestand by going 2-0 on the road to begin the season. They beat the Seahawks. They beat the Saints. The Saints happened with their backup quarterback, Mac Jones, and now, well, they go home, and this game, the point spread is about even. They opened up as favorites. I think Arizona might have flipped to a 1-point favorite now, so the 49ers are underdogs. But San Francisco is just trying to sock some money away into the bank, win as many games as you can while you're shorthanded. And Brock Purdy, I think, likely will be back at some point within the next 2 games. Not likely within the next 1, but likely back within the next 2. He's dealing with the toe injury. 49ers seem to have escaped the worst possible scenario when you look at what happened with Joe Burrow, who's going to need surgery to deal with his turf toe injury. Purdy's details have not really been made public yet. Turf toe always deals with the big toe. Kyle Shanahan took exception to the turf toe terminology, so that leads us to believe that it may be either the side of a toe or one of Purdy's other toes, but it is not something that requires surgery. The 49ers have been optimistic about initial imaging. And again, there is a chance that Brock is back this week. If he's not, well, San Francisco is in really, really good position with its backup quarterback. We got to get a Mac Jones graphic up, but I can start with a look at Mac Jones and Brock Purdy's efficiency so far on a QBR scale. This is just to give people some perspective after the 2 starts that we've seen from both of the 49ers 2 quarterbacks. I'm going to take a screenshot of this and toss it up on the screen because this right here helps, I think, contextualize a lot. And this is not just Purdy and Jones and comparing the performances of the 2 quarterbacks, but this is Purdy's performance against Seattle and Mac Jones's performance against the New Orleans Saints. So here, QBR is probably the best measurement that we have to isolate quarterback play as much as possible from team performance. It's going to be impossible to fully disentangle the 2, but QBR, which it's a proprietary ESPN formula, QBR has consistently done, I think, a good job if you look at the lists from year to year of marrying statistical production and the eye test and including interceptions, touchdowns, clutch drives, sacks, everything under the hood of that formula. Brock Purdy's performance against Seattle, his QBR was 78.8, which is really, really good. Mac Jones also put up a very good QBR in his game against New Orleans, 66.8. So what I did is I went back to the QBR rankings from last year and just wanted to see where those single game ranks from Brock Purdy and Mac Jones would rank if they were extrapolated over the course of the entire 2024 season to give people context on how they did, because a lot of people were upset that Brock Purdy threw 2 interceptions against the Seahawks, but he obviously did a ton of good in that game. And then we have to ask ourselves objectively, how damaging were the interceptions, right? You have to put everything within the framework of what the 49ers were dealing with, both opponent-wise and on their own roster. So it turns out that the QBR that Brock Purdy put up against the Seattle Seahawks, if it's extrapolated over the course of a full year, even with the 2 interceptions that he did throw, would have ranked number 1 of all NFL quarterbacks in 2024. And it turns out that Mac Jones's QBR that he put up against the New Orleans Saints in week 2, if extrapolated over the full season, would have ranked number 4 amongst all NFL quarterbacks. So somebody obviously hopped right into my mentions on X and was like, what are you doing extrapolating that over the full season? This is terrible. Guys, I put the asterisk in there. I said that I'm doing this to give you context on the individual performances, because people are way, way too quick to miscontextualize one play. They'll look at one interception and they'll think that it's the end of the world, and they don't understand how a quarterback could have had a good game throwing 1 pick, even though the entire league has quarterbacks throwing picks. There's no QB that is immune. So I want to take a game and the performance within that game and find a way to illustrate that, wait, maybe this game wasn't as bad as you think it is. Maybe it was actually even a really, really good game from that quarterback. And all of the data, all of the statistical data shows us that Purdy in that first game against the Seattle Seahawks was damn good despite the 2 interceptions. Here you could see the QBR would have ranked number 1 over the course of a full season in 2024. And Mac Jones was damn good against the New Orleans Saints, number 4. So, I mean, this is just a statistical look at a very good quarterback room through the first 2 weeks for the 49ers. And the league, with all these injuries happening all over, I just saw that J.J. McCarthy is not going to be available for week 3 in Minnesota. Of course, we have seen the Joe Burrow injury that we talked about regarding his turf toe. The league has very firmly taught us a message, and the 49ers might know this message better than anybody following that hellacious 2022 run of quarterback injuries that actually led them to Brock Purdy. The league has told us that you need at least 2. And the 49ers, newsflash, they've got 2, and they should be over the moon, and their fans should be over the moon that through 2 weeks, both of these guys rank like this in terms of QBR. I mean, let's be 100% honest. The NFL, 31 other teams, I think, would love to have the situation that the 49ers have right now. The 49ers, in fact, became the first team since 1988 to win their first 2 games on the road with 2 different starting quarterbacks. The 1988 team that did that was the 49ers. Who did the 49ers have? They had Joe Montana starting week 1, and they had Steve Young starting week 2. So the most famous QB room in history, probably the best QB room in history, the 49ers of the late 80s and the early 90s. In 1991, the 49ers had Joe Montana, Steve Young, and Steve Bono. I don't know if you're going to find a better QB room than that ever, especially now with the salary cap. But if Purdy and Mac Jones were able to lead the way for the 49ers to accomplish something last accomplished by the greatest QB room in history, I think that the 49ers are off to a good start. I think that's something that really, really buoys their chances in the 2025 season. All right, let's go back to the team tier chart. I've got a lot of cool data, stats to share with you on the show today, so we can open this up as we go through the Purdy update. We're also going to talk a little bit about Bryce Huff. The Eagles' mistake is turning into the 49ers' gain. But first, a look at these team tiers. I'm going to go ahead and make this a little bit wider. So this is coming from PFF, offensive strength and defensive strength. This is EPA per play on both sides of the ball. So a really well done chart here in terms of the team tiers. You want to be further to the right and further up. Further to the right means that your offensive strength is better. Further up means that your defensive strength is better. Then the diagonal lines correspond to tiers. So I think I would say that the best team in football so far has looked to be the Green Bay Packers through 2 weeks, best defense in football, and what, the 6th or 7th best offense. The best offenses in football have been the Bills and the Ravens. I'm zooming in on them over here. The Colts have also been very good offensively, but and the Lions too. But all three of these teams have been suspect defensively so far, which drops them, some of them even into tier 2. The Lions and the Colts into tier 2, but the Bills and the Ravens have been good enough offensively to still be in this diagonal tier with the Chargers, the Rams, and the Packers. Then you have the 49ers, and this is a promising start for San Francisco. You've got a nice balanced trend for the 49ers to open the season. Offense has been doing some good work. Defense has been doing some good work. Both are above average. Neither has been great, but the 49ers are in tier 2, comfortably there with Jacksonville, Atlanta, Jacksonville coming to Levi's in a couple weeks. And Arizona's a tier 1 team with a good offense and a slightly above average defense. They're going to be at Levi's on Sunday. So intriguing stuff, right? Now let's go to where the 49ers have an opportunity to improve. This is the one chart where San Francisco is just kind of in the middle of the pack as far as cumulative team performance. So what you have here, bottom is the suplex rate are at the top. You have the explanation here: success rate and explosive play rates. Okay, so the success rate and explosive play rate is combined into 2. And the 49ers offense especially has not created a lot of explosive plays yet. So as you can see, the 49ers offense is middle of the pack. They're literally, their logo is right in the middle of this graph. And the defense explosive allowance and success rate allowance is also right in the middle of the pack. For the offense especially, I can say that the problem so far, the reason that the 49ers are not in the upper right like they are with overall EPA, has been the lack of explosive plays. They had one to Jawan Jennings the other day in week 1. What was it? One explosive play to Ricky Pearsall, Brock Purdy on the double move to Ricky Pearsall. The bottom line is the 49ers have not created enough explosive plays as of yet in this 2025 regular season. If you're going to want to sustain good EPA, expected points added efficiency, which is going to tally all plays. So if you want to sustain this and you want to move further into tier 1 and the 49ers are trying to improve, you're going to have to deliver more explosives. Why? Because it's really, really hard. And I know that the defenses of both the Saints and the Seahawks both were conducive to this for the 49ers, especially Seattle. Bend but don't break defense means that defense is challenging you to go on a 15 or 20 play drive. And they're betting on the chances that you're going to make a mistake at some point over the course of a long drive. And the 49ers went long drive. They ran 76 plays against the Seattle Seahawks. The odds of an interception, the odds of a fumble, the odds of something going wrong, a drop that kills a drive, become higher the longer that drive takes. That is the philosophy of a bend but don't break defense. So the one way to counteract that, to beat those odds or to make those odds something that aren't applicable to you, is to deliver more explosive plays. And a lot of that's going to be measured on a chart like this where the 49ers are still in the middle. I can only name really 2 explosive plays offensively from the past 2 weeks. Now, part of this are the defenses that the 49ers are facing. And another part of it is the personnel that's missing for the 49ers. This offense is not anywhere close to full strength for San Francisco. Brandon Ayuk is going to help their explosive play rate when he returns. George Kittle is going to help their explosive play rate when he returns. I would think that Demarcus Robinson, who's only going to be out for 1 more week, is going to help the explosive play rate when he returns. You know, yesterday up on the San Francisco Standard, I had my 49ers game grades. And look, Mac Jones and Christian McCaffrey are on the cover photo of this article. But my game grades in the receiver portion, I mentioned that Robinson's going to be coming back. Ayuk maybe as soon as week 6. Obviously, Brock Purdy will help your explosive play rate as well. He's been out now for a week for San Francisco. But you look at just those 2 players, Ayuk and Demarcus Robinson. And then, you know, maybe if Jordan Watkins works his way into the mix with some speed, the 49ers receiving room will go from a massive question mark, which it was over training camp and here over the start of the regular season, to what I think is going to be a dangerous room. if you can get all those guys on the field at the same time, plus George Kittle, obviously. And then the explosives will increase. And that I firmly believe, and you can go check this article up on the San Francisco Standard. We go through every position with some of the data that I'm showing you right now. But that I firmly believe is what can take the 49ers up from where they currently are on the team tier chart in that second tier, which you can see right here, up to this territory right here. How do the 49ers move the offense further to the right? Well, you return some guys. You return your quarterback, obviously Purdy, who's at the top of his game, who was awesome in that week 1. And you return Ayuk, you return Kittle. You continue the pass blocking. The next thing I'm getting to for the 49ers, by the way, is pass protection. It's been really good, especially this past week. You can really start to see an offense that could be in the tier 1 of the NFL. Then the defense, I think, just built into all this, the exciting part for the 49ers is that the defense is going to get better as long as it stays decently healthy over this season. I mean, you're still waiting for Malik Mustafa to return, right? But the 49ers defense, the fact that it started above average through these 2 games, despite 3 rookie starters, to give you perspective, last year, the Rams, who renovated their defense, they, for the first 3 months of the season, they had 2 rookie starters. They only had 2. The 49ers have 3. The Rams were number 29 defensively through the first 3 months of last season. They were number 5 over the last 2 months. They turned it up. But the Rams, their offense was about where the 49ers is right now, but their defense was way down here. Do you guys see where the cursor is? Way down here. The Rams were like in between the Giants and the Cowboys. They were on the reddish side of this graph. They were down a few tiers early in the year because their defense, their young defense, was not performing at a very high level to begin the year until they developed. So the 49ers through 2 weeks, these are just like early exit poll numbers. I caution against reading too far into them, but I think that we have our eyes, we have our brains. We can start to project some things. We can start to gauge where the 49ers are at versus versus the rest of the league. The 49ers are doing a whole lot better than the Rams were at this time last year. They're firmly in tier 2, and they have upward mobility defensively because I think this unit is going to improve just like the Rams did improve last year. It's just that the 49ers have a better starting point than LA. All right, now let's go back to the offensive side of the ball. First, actually, with a break for special teams. This happened last night. Cameron Dicker, so he's the Chargers kicker. He finally hit 100 career field goal attempts. He now has 101, and he's made 95 of 101 career attempts. To qualify for the all-time field goal percentage leaderboard, you have to have at least 100 attempts. So Dicker has now splashed onto the scene with the highest percentage that we have ever seen over 100 or more attempts, 94.1%. He has unseated Justin Tucker, the previous high water mark at 89.1%. What does this mean? Well, it means that the 49ers' own Eddie Pinheiro has been bumped down from number 3 to number 4. Pinheiro enjoyed about 24 hours as number 3. He had moved up to 3 before Dicker was part of this conversation. He passed Chris Boswell with his 2 field goal makes against the New Orleans Saints. So Eddie Pinheiro back down at number 4. If he keeps on making kicks and if Harrison Butker misses one, then Eddie Pinheiro can get back to number 3. Probably will be hard to eclipse Justin Tucker this year unless he has a perfect season of kicking. He's missed an extra point, but that doesn't count against this list. But just thought I'd give you the kicking percentage up. An awesome development for the 49ers. This is from 2 different sources, PFF and ESPN, 2 independent pass rush metrics. Ben Baldwin was able to combine both for this chart, and I'm trying to make it a little bit wider so you can see. Maybe we'll get it, maybe we won't. No, so we probably won't. But bottom line is that the 49ers are upper right. So but x-axis is the PFF pass blocking grade. So you want to be better PFF pass blocking grade, puts you further to the right. Look at the 49ers. They are the second best PFF pass blocking grade behind only the Denver Broncos. Then if you look at the very left side, the x-axis, that's pass block win rate. That is ESPN's measurement. So you want to be further up. Average line is the dotted line, horizontal line. 49ers are above average, not quite as high by ESPN's measurement, which ESPN's measurement is how often do you hold a block for 2.5 seconds or more? That's the ESPN standard for pass block win rate. 49ers are clustered amongst the best performers, not quite as high there, but they are in the upper right quadrant, which is where you want to be. So everybody who told me that the 49ers would have horrible pass protection this year, it doesn't look like they will through 2 games. There's a lot of season left to play, but Seattle had a monstrous defensive front in week 1, and the PFF grading for the 49ers actually took into account that Seattle was doing some awesome stuff to pressure Brock Purdy, and just objective grading from whether or not you like the numbers from ESPN and from PFF have the 49ers performing significantly better than they really ever have in pass protection under Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. Last week, Trent Williams played through his bone bruise, didn't allow a single pressure. Ben Barch was good up until he got hurt 10 snaps in. Connor Colby, the rookie, replaced him. 36 pass blocking snaps, didn't allow a single pressure. So the 2 offensive linemen on the left side who played the majority of the game against the New Orleans Saints didn't allow a single pressure. Jake Brendel, I think, is playing much, much better football than last year. And guess what? Jake was hurt last year. He was playing with knee tendonitis last year. So I think it makes sense. Everybody wanted to trash Jake Brendel over the course of the season, but they conveniently forgot that he had been very limited throughout the course of training camp due to knee tendonitis. Like, he would miss once of every few practices, and center is extremely difficult to play in this system. So the fact that Brendel looks better, I think, is very correlated with the fact that he's healthier in this 2025 season. The 49ers have also, Aaron Banks signed for $19 million annually with the Green Bay Packers, but I think the 49ers have gotten better pass protection from left guard through 2 games of Ben Barch and now Connor Colby than they did from Aaron Banks last year. So they're at the very least, they're getting way more value from the left guard position. Right guard, Dominic Puni. This is actually, in a roundabout way, this is good news for the 49ers. Puni, to me, has not looked like himself through 2 games. I think that the knee might still be bothering him. That's just me speculating. He should get healthier over the course of the year after the injury that he suffered against the Raiders in week 2 of the preseason. Because Puni opened last season just torrid. So hot last year, right? I mean, he was on a roll to begin the season. Wasn't until later in the season when some of the technique stuff began to catch up to him. He wasn't able to quite counter adjust the way that the 49ers needed him to. But I think so far this year he's been all right, but I think that he could still be better, and I think that he will be if he works his way closer to health. Then there is Colton McKivitz, who has turned into a bona fide top-tier tackle over the first 2 games. And yes, this is a big Brock Purdy update because we're talking about Purdy's offensive tackles. We're talking about one being all-world and Trent Williams, one of the greatest to ever do it on the left side. Colton McKivitz ranks, and this is by pass block efficiency, so it's by pressures allowed, ranks number 6 of over 60 qualifying offensive tackles, both left and right side, through 2 games in pass block efficiency. And that is including a PFF tallying error. And I will say this, I'll call it an error right now. Love the guys over at PFF, but it wasn't a pressure that he allowed on the strip sack to Mac Jones. Mac Jones himself said that was my fault. Mac Jones said I needed to get rid of the ball quicker. It was 3.8 seconds between the time of the snap and the time of the throwing attempt and the strip sack on that play early in the 3rd quarter. Colton McKivitz had beaten his man, pushed him to the ground, and then his man was able to get up and slide over toward Mac Jones. It was just one of those plays that PFF tallied wrong. Maybe they'll correct it at some point. I don't know how their process works, but they charged McKivitz with a pressure on that play when he didn't allow a pressure. That wasn't Colton's fault. You got to get rid of it in under 3 seconds at the very worst for a quarterback. Without that one pressure allowed, McKivitz might be ranked at the very top of the league in pass protection over the first 2 weeks. If you're not grasping how monumental of a development this is for the 49ers. Maybe I can help you by pointing out that in his first season starting in 2023, out of 60 qualifying tackles, Colton McKivitz ranked number 59 in pass blocking efficiency. In his second year, he improved to like number 27 or number 28 out of about 60 qualifying tackles. So from number 59 to number 28 to somewhere in the top 5. We'll just be a little conservative with it there through 2 games this season. Is he going to sustain that over the course of this season? I don't know. I'm just going to objectively watch to see how he does. I'm not going to be biased in one way or another. I'm just going to look at his performance and then I'm going to draw my conclusions based on that. But at the very least, it is anyone, even Colton McKivitz's biggest critic, would have to admit that the start of his 2025 season has been extremely promising since he's grading out at least near the top 5 in pass protection. And all of this that I just went through across the 49ers offensive line has added up to them being over here, which you absolutely have to acknowledge is one of the biggest and probably most unexpected developments if you consider the media portrayal of the 49ers offensive line. This is one of the biggest developments over the first 2 weeks of this 2025 season. So if they do anything close to keeping that up, the 2 guys that I showed you a little bit earlier, and I'm going to show you again, these 2 guys right here are going to have a chance to continue delivering QBRs that extrapolate to the top 5 over the course of the season. It is a team sport. Purdy and Jones have benefited so far from good offensive line play. And that first week was really interesting for the 49ers. I think I might have been a little harsh in grading the offensive line. And this is stuff that, we amend over the course of the season. Seattle's defensive front is really, really rounding into a monster. They were awesome in week 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. I think it's apparent that as this season progresses, we're going to be looking more and more at that Seattle defensive front as a unit that is giving everyone trouble. And you grade on a curve every week based on who you're facing. That's the only intelligent way to do things. I think that the 49ers have many indicators of being a good O-line this year, and the Seattle Seahawks have many indicators of being a great D-line this year. I don't think that was prognosticated correctly by anyone entering the season. And that's why it's so fun to actually play the games instead of previewing them, right? We finally start to see what these teams are about. Seattle brought the heat with the front 4. Mike McDonald has coached those guys up. He has them in the right positions to succeed. The 49ers counteracted it. And if there's one thing to take away from the Seattle game in week 1, every single money down in that game, the 49ers O-line won. So I'm talking Ricky Pearsall to on the double move. On a double move, you've got to hold up in pass protection. You got to form a wall around the quarterback. Double moves don't work if the pass pro gets beat at any of the 1-5 links. You got to have enough time for that play to develop downfield. And it did. So there were money downs in that Seattle game and 4th downs, 3rd downs that San Francisco up front unequivocally won. And that helped their PFF grade. And that helped Brock Purdy, the quarterback at the left, who had that really, really good start to the season. All right. What else do we have? I've got some more for you guys. We got the pass protection graph. We had the explosive graph. We went through the kickers. This one's good right here. We got one more on pass protection. This is charted pass blocking and pass play efficiency. So the pass block grade to the right, you can see the 49ers are behind all the Broncos. You saw that on the previous graph. And then EPA per drop back. So this is going to be offensive line on the x-axis and quarterback offensive production and efficiency on the y-axis. Look where the 49ers are. This is exactly where you want to be if you're San Francisco. That means your QBs are delivering, and so is your offensive line in the upper right. So the 49ers are doing this without their full stable of weapons. That's like the main thing to remember here. This translates into a good score for the offense, but if they want to get up to be a tier 1 team and a true conference title and Super Bowl contender, then that, like, weapons back, combine it with what we're showing you from the 49ers offensive line and their quarterbacks, and I think there's a clear path to that. Now, to take this further, to continue graduating up the team tier chart, the defense also has to continue improving. But I think that we all considered that a given as we were prognosticating this 2025 season. So hopefully that all makes sense. Speaking of the defense, this is something we need to address. Bryce Huff. This was a mistake by the Eagles. There's no question about it. I was talking with Nick Bosa about this in the locker room. He said the Eagles didn't use him right, and this is something we were all talking about when the 49ers traded for Bryce Huff. Philadelphia is paying $9 million of Bryce Huff's salary. They're paying Bryce Huff more than the 49ers are paying him, and the 49ers have already benefited from Bryce Huff delivering a game-closing play. He had 5 pressures the other day. He put up just a silly metric when it came to distance from the quarterback in San Francisco's season opener, or in the second game against the Saints, not the season opener. Here, this is the metric that I'm talking about. Bryce Huff, close to the QB. Let's get this, get it a little bit bigger up on the screen. So you could see the league average is 4.57 yards away from the quarterback. Bryce Huff was 3.24. I mean, it's ridiculous. And you saw it on tape. I mean, this is just the numeric representation of the tape that you did watch. Like Bryce and that get off, which the last time that he played in a system that worked for him was the fastest in the NFL in 2023 for the New York Jets. So the Eagles decided to pay this guy $18 million a year, even though he didn't fit their system. Then they try to force him into a position that he shouldn't have been in. So obviously he didn't play well for Philadelphia. That's a big mistake committed by the Super Bowl champions. It's possible, right? There's gray area here. A team that won the Super Bowl can also commit a big error. And that's what happened in Philly, and they wasted Bryce Huff. And I guess you can credit Philadelphia for moving off of the error, but they're still paying Bryce Huff more money than the 49ers are paying him this year. Now we see that the problem was the Eagles. The problem wasn't the 49ers. The problem wasn't the Jets. The problem was the team that didn't use him right. So just don't pay the guy if he doesn't fit into your system. I think there's an easy way to avoid that issue. Now, I mean, I know they brought in Vic Fangio. I know that might have changed things for Philadelphia, and they've got a lot of other D-line talent, so that might have exacerbated how bad this looked from the outside because Huff didn't play. Bottom line, though, is that he's in a spot where he's comfortable. He's got a tremendous explosion and get off the line of scrimmage. The 49ers haven't had this opposite of Nick Bosa for several years. The best get off they've had opposite Bosa since D Ford. And it looks like Huff could be a healthier player than D Ford, which is a really big deal. And if we're talking about the upward mobility of the 49ers defense, this is a huge part of it, the edge rush, especially since I don't think that they're all that strong at interior defensive line. Now, Alfred Collins had a nice swim move in his first NFL pressure. I think that will develop for the 49ers. But if we're talking about relative weak points, it's that interior. So the exterior is where you have to bring the true heat. In subsequent weeks, both Bryce Huff and Nick Bosa, and it's the reverse order, Bosa first, Huff on Sunday at New Orleans. Both of these guys have delivered game-closing plays, which is a huge deal in the National Football League. All right, back to the top. Brock Purdy update in this one. Purdy probably out this week, but I would think that it's likely that he's back within the next 2. So there's a chance for Sunday, and I would say that there is a high chance, relatively high, especially to the one that we're looking at this week, for the Jacksonville game. So likely that he's back within the next 2 weeks. The imaging went well for Brock Purdy on the toe injury. It is not the Joe Burrow injury, that's for sure. That one is requiring surgery. And the good news for the 49ers is that they've got 2 good quarterbacks that can fit within this system and deliver what they need to deliver. Mac Jones and Brock Purdy. That if you haven't seen the start of this show, when I went through the extrapolated QBR numbers, take the numbers from week 1 and week 2 games for Purdy and Jones, respectively. Those are top 5 QBR marks in 2024 extrapolated over that season. I'm just trying to give you guys a good little perspective point, and I think that should be one, because I think there's been some misunderstanding, especially about Purdy's week 1 performance against Seattle, which, given what that defense was doing and has been doing since then, I mean, Purdy looked a whole lot better than Aaron Rodgers did against that Seattle Seahawks defense. Rodgers played them for the Steelers in week 2. All right, a few minutes of questions here. Let's go for it. Quarterbacks are finding out that Upton Stout is no joke. He knows how to blitz. That's for sure. That's the strength of Upton's game right now, is his blitzing prowess. And we figured it might be just because of the fact he's so strong. He put up those 21 bench press reps. And I think that he's small. I think that helps him. I think it's harder to see a guy that's 5'8" coming in. But he's strong and aptly named. He is stout as well. Like lowercase s, stout, uppercase s is his name, but he is strong and stout. I think his name is absolutely perfect given his playing style. Do I think that Mac Jones will level up with another week's practice and really start to show that he could be a starter again in this league? I think that's the goal for Mac Jones. Now, the best news of all for the 49ers in all of this is that they signed him to a 2-year deal. So if Mac really, really plays well over a slightly longer stretch than just one game, and somebody really wants him as a starter next year, the 49ers can be in line to get some significant trade compensation in return for Mac Jones. Or they could just decide to keep him, because the way that this is going, 2 quarterbacks are necessary. Like, you see all of these, it's much more common to see a quarterback not play and start a whole season than it is to see a quarterback start a whole season. QB injury rates in the NFL are damn high. So having 2 is important, and the 49ers upgraded number 2 over this offseason. Address Feliciano? No, I mean, I've interviewed Feliciano on the channel. I don't know what else you want me to do. Renardo has you a little concerned. So Diameter Lenore is allowed next to nothing. 72 cover snaps and 16 yards, but the damage has indeed come against Renardo Green. JSN deep shot against the 49ers in week 1 from Seattle, and then last week you saw Rashid Shaheed beat him deep downfield. And then Renardo seemed to fall right before Chris Olave dropped that ball. So yeah, I think the 49ers would like to see better play, better coverage from Renardo Green. But the good news is that the other corner so far hasn't even really been tested in Diameter Lenore. That really helps the rest of the defense. Update on Brandon Ayuk and Mustafa. I would expect both back week 6, especially Mustafa. Ayuk, I'm not as sure on, but I see him running around at practice, and I think he's moving better and better with each passing week. The 49ers, they can't have him back for the first 4 games. They're on PUP, so they're out for at least 4 by rule. Week 5 against the Rams, they'd be eligible to return, but it's a Thursday night game. And with Thursday night games, you don't have practice that week. You have like one walkthrough. They're not going to put these guys back out there on an artificial field without any practice. It's just not going to happen. Week 6 is at Tampa, natural grass, full week of practice. Remember, Christian McCaffrey returned at Tampa last year. It was a good setup coming out of a bye week for San Francisco. I think that you have a similar type of setup for BA and Mustafa returns this season. Which position group is the weakest link so far? Well, it's not quarterback, that's for sure. It's not running back. I think wide receiver hasn't been great, but they've gotten the job done, and they only project to get healthier, so I don't think it's really fair to toss them into this discussion. Tight end has gotten the job done despite the Kittle injury. Not fair to them either. Offensive line, I've been talking about how surprisingly to some good they've been, not them. I would say defensive tackle has been probably the weakest so far, but they're expecting development and they're seeing development from Alfred Collins. I mean, Alfred had 9 snaps in week 1 and 24 in week 2. Gives you an idea of the growing trust in Alfred Collins for the 49ers. Linebacker, definitely not. Winters and Warner have been absolute monsters. Safety, maybe. Pinnock and Marquise Siegel both got beaten for touchdowns, so maybe safety. Say safety and defensive tackle, because cornerback, even though Renato's gotten beaten on a couple passes, it hasn't been obscenely bad, and they've got Lenore at corner. So I would say safety and defensive tackle have been the 49ers' 2 weakest position groups so far. And that's a lot of that's anticipated, right? We thought that they might be a little weak at defensive tackle, that they would need to develop. And we said the same thing about safety, where they're waiting for Malik Mustafa to return. Should the 49ers kick the tires on Tyreek Hill? Hell no. There's no reason that this is going to be a dangerous receiving room in a few weeks. Brandon Ayuk, Ricky Pearsall, he's going to go for 1,000 this year. Juwan Jennings, Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne. I mean, at some point, if everybody's healthy at once, and I know that might not happen, but theoretically, it is possible that somebody like Sky Moore might have to be cut. He's going to be the returner, so you probably keep him. But Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I don't see room for him on this football team. Jordan Watkins, maybe he takes over Moore's returning job at some point. I mean, I just listed those 5 guys, and Watkins wasn't even part of that group. They got a lot in the tank at receiver. Just they don't have everybody available at this very moment right now. I think the 49ers are good at wideout. I really do. Is there a chance that Mustafa and Brown end up starting by the end of the year? I don't think Brown is, unless there are injuries, I don't think Jair is starting at safety. I think he might see some action like he did this past week at the new position, a big nickel. Robert Saleh wants really fast safeties, period. Like that's the goal for the 49ers. Jair Brown is not moving quickly enough to be a safety. They like him at a third linebacker / big nickel spot to be able to cover some of the tight ends and also play the run. I think that he's good for that role. So they're going to have a big nickel and a small nickel. They didn't play Luke Gifford at all in this past game. The third linebacker, he only played special teams. It was either Brown as the de facto third linebacker or Upton Stout, both in nickel packages. They had big nickel, Brown, small nickel to 5'8", Upton Stout. I think that's where you would see somebody like Jair Brown. I need to run a quick experiment, guys. A quick little lighting experiment. I'm going to take this off the screen. I'm going to put this onto it. Just give me a second. I'm going to open up one of the window shades, see how this looks. We're so close to 1,000. Yeah. Send this to your friends. We're going to get across 1K as I answer some of these questions. 1 second. All right. So I wonder what does this, I don't know if it looks any different at all. I'm letting in some light from this window, and I'm going to observe this a little bit later to see if it looks better or worse, but that's where I'm at this point. Just making sure that everything here in the studio is set up so the rest of the season goes smoothly. I don't have my mic arm set up right now because we had a little mic break situation like we lost. It's somewhere in my suitcase. When you travel as much as I do, then sometimes things get damaged in transit. So I got to fix that. Dominic Puni is just playing a little bit worse than he was at his peak last year. I think in both phases of the game. And I just don't think he's fully healthy. And I think he's going to be a great asset for this line. He still is. I mean, to me, is still an above average right guard for the 49ers. But he was downright great to open last season. And I think he's going to get back to that. And I think he just has to get right physically. The poor guy got hurt on extra point block in week 2 at Allegiant Stadium against the Raiders. On the other side, Connor Colby looks really, really good. He does. And that first game, 36 snaps, no pressures allowed. Well, I talked to LeVar Woods on Iowa staff. He came onto the show. We had a big interview with him. You can go back, dig that up, check it out. A lot of the stuff that we talked about with Connor Colby has come to fruition, and maybe it's come to fruition earlier. You guys will remember that one of my big predictions coming out of the draft, and it was a bold one, was that Connor Colby would start at some point his rookie season for the 49ers. That prediction is going to come true in week 3 because Ben Bartch is a high ankle sprain, is going to be out for probably a month or more. There's a chance that Connor Colby grabs that job while Bartch is out. I'm looking through some more questions. Sorry, it's hard to fully keep up at all times as we go through our Brock Purdy update show. I want 1,000 on here. 1,000 for a Tuesday when there isn't a whole lot going on. That kind of flexes the strength of the channel. Maybe we'll get it. Maybe we won't. We'll give it a few more minutes. What's Drew Moss's depth position now? I mean, it's still the same. Moss is a developmental player on the 53. Those guys aren't all too common because the 53-man roster is usually not big enough to carry developmental guys. But the 49ers made an exception for Drew Moss. If you want to see, here you go. I'll zoom in on the offensive line because they didn't want to get poached by somebody else. So Colby will fill in for Bartch. Maybe I could even switch Colby and Moss. Like we'll put Colby here behind Bartch and we'll put Drew Moss on the right side. But the bottom line is that Moss remains developmental. It's not somebody that they're going to activate or plug into game action unless they're absolutely forced to by injury destruction. But the 49ers are not at that point, at least right now. Drake Nugent is on the practice squad. I see a question there. It's from Texas Niner. Thank you. One of our members. You could sign up for a membership. Somebody said I could see Michael competing for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, if he keeps on doing what he did on Sunday, then yes, that was a really, really good performance on Sunday. The problem is a lot of these awards seem to be voted on by people who just look at the box score. And Michael, his impact is far beyond the box score so far here in this season. You really have to have somebody who understands the game and understands impact beyond just simple statistics to really quantify what the 49ers are expecting from Michael Williams and what they, how they're benefiting from his edge-setting presence out there. Yeah, Bartch might go on, oops, this is the wrong one. Bartch might go on IR. Bartch might go on injured reserve, which is going to be 4 games, I would think, with a high ankle sprain. That is possible because they usually say 5 to 6 weeks for one of those high ankle sprains, or 4 to 6. That'll open up a roster spot for the 49ers, and they probably do need one at this point. So, yes, stat nerds do want to see numbers, but I think stat nerds want to see advanced numbers. And Michael is delivering in the advanced numbers. He was the most double-teamed defensive lineman in all of football in week 1. All of football. Number 1, like, you double-teamed like 96% of the time, like 94, I think. An absurd amount of the time. That's a number 2. It's just not a simple number like sacks or tackles or whatever. But the double team rate is extremely important, and it implies to other 49ers defensive linemen. I think it's too early to talk about a trade deadline splash for the 49ers. We got to see how these receivers return to action, stuff like that. Guys are going to get hurt every week. That's just how football is. So that's going to create potential no, that's going to create potential new needs for the 49ers. What about Evan Anderson? Why is he not higher up on the depth chart? Evan's now in the practice squad. A little bit of a demotion for Evan Anderson when they picked up Jordan Jefferson off of waivers. Got to rebuild the border here. There, that's a lot better. So Evan's over here on the practice squad side alongside Sebastian Valdez. Jordan Jefferson has been inactive. So if he's behind even Jordan Jefferson, then he's going to have to leapfrog at least one guy. And it's Alfred Collins and CJ West. Alfred is rising. I could tell you that right now for the 49ers. And CJ West is next to him at that defensive tackle position. All right, 50 minutes seems about right. Everybody, thanks for watching. That's been your Brock Purdy update. Hit that sub button. Do all the good stuff. Check out the San Francisco Standard as well. This is what you need to read if you want a little bit more of this 49ers discussion. I literally looked at every single 49ers position room. We got a great receiver breakdown here. SF Data Niners does a good job. D-line breakdown. As you can tell, this is the most in-depth 49ers coverage that there is written-wise on the internet. So you can support through there. Hit the sub button on this channel. We will talk to everybody very soon. Have a good Tuesday.